A couple weeks ago, I looked down at my hands and I noticed my fingernails and they were growing. And that sounds like a really small thing to notice, and it is. Except for that most of the past year, my nails had barely been able to grow past the ends of my fingers. They cracked, they peeled, they were thin, they were really unhealthy. And around the same time, my hair was falling out a lot more than usual. And I noticed those things when they were happening, of course, but didn't really connect anything to them in particular. I'm a woman of a certain age, hormones happen, hair changes and bodies change. And I just figured it was probably some combination of all the usual suspects, and, life went on. And then a couple of weeks ago, I noticed I had actually had fingernails again, long enough even to put a little polish on them. And standing there, looking at my hands, I suddenly thought, oh, my body's coming out of it. I'm approaching a year since a particularly painful event brought my time at a church that I love to its final conclusion. But the strain hadn't begun there. There had already been these moments of loss and pressure and uncertainty and this relational upheaval and that slow realization that things could not keep going the way they had been. And then came the final blow. And looking back now, I can see that my body had been living under an extraordinary amount of stress. I couldn't fully recognize it while it was happening, and apparently my hair and nails could. And now my fingernails are growing again. And it's funny. It's funny how something that small can make you realize how far you've come. Years ago, of all places, I heard a Mary Kay speaker, and she said something that really stayed with me. She said that at any given time, we're probably in one of three places where we're going through a crisis, we recently come out of one, or we're headed toward another one somewhere ahead of us, right? Cheery little Mary Kay thought. But I understood what she meant. And it isn't fatalism. Christians aren't supposed to wander around nervously wondering what terrible thing is going to happen next. Scripture doesn't teach us either to expect a life that's just insulated from trouble. Jesus certainly didn't. In the world you will have tribulation, he told his disciples, not might, will. And this past year has reminded me of something that I think is just really important. Faith does not make our bodies impervious to suffering. My hair still fell out, my nails still cracked, my nervous system still knew that I was under tremendous strain, and I cried and I grieved and I got tired, really tired at times. And sometimes I just woke up thinking about things that I wished I weren't thinking about, and I spiraled at times, and there was no spiritual force field around me because I knew my Bible and because I loved Jesus. But I went through it differently. And it's harder to put into words, I think, because the difference isn't always visible from the outside. This is one reason that I care so deeply about the difference between doing Bible study and dwelling in the Word. It's entirely possible to do all the Christian things, to go to church, to read the Bible, even to attend a Bible study. I can listen to sermons, I can listen to podcasts, I can make the highlights in the Bible, make it look as put together and as invested in my life as it might look as I do the things. But Christianity can become just external if we're not careful. We can learn how to put on the trappings of a life with God without actually learning to entrust ourselves to Him. And eventually life tests that difference. When the phone call comes, when the relationship fractures, when someone that you trusted turns out to not be trustworthy, when the future that you assumed, that I assumed would be yours, and it suddenly isn't. And it's not just the stress close in a church family, it's the shock and the stress hit after hit. It's the cancer diagnosis. It's the broken marriages. It's death, dad, mom, friend, another friend, loss upon loss close to home, and wearied by the darkness in the news when you look around and think, how in the world did everything get so messed up? And so a Bible verse that's used as some pleasant inspirational thought isn't much help then. And it isn't a faith built on how you feel about God that's helpful either. I need something sturdier. I needed a truth that's been allowed to really actually sink down deep enough. It's actually shaped the way that I see reality. I need the word of Christ dwelling in me richly, not just hovering around politely, printed on a little sweet script over a peaceful landscape photo. Dwelling in Scripture doesn't equate necessarily to understanding what God is doing. It's really the opposite. Sometimes Scripture gives me language for admitting that I don't understand what God is doing. There's this verse, a line in the book of Hebrews that's become really, really precious to me. It reads, "At present we do not yet see everything in subjection to Him, but we see Him." But we see Him. I can't think of a better description of what sustained me. There were things this past year that did not look right, things that were not right. There were moments when, if I had judged the reign of Christ merely by what I could see immediately in front of me, I would have wondered where in the world He was. Sometimes I did. Sometimes people around me did. And I don't blame them, and I relate. It's really hard not to slip there with clenched fists and tears streaming down, my face reddened. Where in the world are you, God? This is really hard. And I cried a lot. I cried a lot alone, and I cried a lot with, over this past year. And the stress showed up, like I said, in my hair and my nails. We do not yet see everything in subjection to Him. There's such an honesty in that sentence, and you just look around and something really clearly is wrong with this world. Sin wounds people, bodies are suffering, relationships are breaking, good things sometimes just collapse. People betray one another, death is an enemy, creation groans, oh man does it groan. We do not yet see everything as it will one day be, but we see Jesus, Hebrews goes on to point out that the one who Himself entered into our suffering, who was for a little while made lower than the angels, who suffered death, who is now crowned with glory and honor. Christian hope is not pretending that everything is fine. It's not positive thinking, and it isn't just some escape hatch from the world. Paul says it in Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians. He says, "We grieve, but not as those who have no hope." We do grieve. We grieve what is broken. We grieve what is lost. We grieve what should have been when what wasn't. Because faith doesn't require us to minimize pain or just rush past the sorrow with a Bible verse and a brave face. But our grief is not hopeless grief. Our hope is Jesus Christ, crucified, risen, reigning, and returning, the one whom God will put finally all things right. And that changes the way I walk, the way you can walk through a year when it really doesn't feel right. Doesn't necessarily keep your hair from falling out. Apparently it doesn't guarantee good fingernails either, but it gives you somewhere to stand when the world beneath your feet feels terribly unstable. And now, for me, a year later, I can look down at my hands and I can see a small sign that my body is beginning to understand what my soul has been learning all along. The difference was that I had somewhere to look when I could not make sense of what I was seeing. We do not yet see everything in subjection to Him, but we see Him. I see Him. And the next crisis will come. Actually, it's already here, but that's a post for another day. Simply a life in a world that is not yet fully as it will be is what we recognize. I don't need to know that I'll handle it perfectly. I'm certain I won't, but I know where to look. I've made it a habit to not treat the Bible or my faith as a devotional or a self-improvement journey. I've decided to dwell, and that has made the difference. We do not yet see everything in subjection to Him, but we see Him. And for now, that is enough.